Hello, Milwaukee Bucks fans. Welcome back to Bucks Latest, presented by FanArch.com. I'm your host, Dean Simon. Please consider liking, subscribing, turning on post notifications to stay up to date and in the know with all the latest Milwaukee Bucks updates. All right, we're going to start things off with Gary Trent Jr.'s impending free agency, how worrisome that is for the Milwaukee Bucks as an organization. And SB Nation's Jackson Gross recently talked at length about the impending free agency in a recent article, and he discussed both Trent Jr.'s role if he were to return to the Bucks this offseason and about prospective suitors that could snag him away, and some of these would be incredibly frustrating, as you'll come to find out. Speaking on his role heading into next season, prospectively with the Bucks, he said that if Trent does sign on the dotted line once again with the Bucks, he is the starting shooting guard day one. Whoever will be next to him in the backcourt is yet to be determined, with Ryan Rollins heading to restricted free agency and Kevin Porter Jr. left with a $2.5 million player option he will reportedly decline. Again, another worrisome wrinkle in the Milwaukee Bucks offseason with Kevin Porter Jr. likely using his leverage that he created by having a great end of the regular season with the Bucks, a pretty great playoff run. He might take his talents to another team and look for a big payday. But continuing on, he also said that outside of his starting role, GTJ will be relied upon to be a secondary scorer and ball handler in certain situations. He was also a decent pull-up mid-range shooter, hitting shots from 10 feet to the three-point line at a 43.6% clip. It's not laughable to think that a guy like Gary Trent Jr. can be the second scoring option on a decent team, but you would have just never imagined in your wildest dreams that a Milwaukee Bucks team in the Giannis Antetokounmpo era, especially a team going into next season, 2025-26, with Damian Lillard on the roster, with all these different things happening in free agency and these trade rumors coming up, that Gary Trent Jr. heading into next year, that he may be the Bucks' second leading scorer or second most relied upon scorer outside of Giannis. You wouldn't think this on any iteration of the Milwaukee Bucks. But that's not to say that Gary Trent Jr. isn't skilled and that he doesn't have all-around scoring chops. Of course, he's a great outside threat. He's one of the best three-point shooters percentage-wise in the entire NBA, and he does have a little bit of extra to him. He can get to that mid-range. He can get all the way to the rim on occasion. He's not really deficient in any of these areas on the floor, but again, it's kind of ridiculous to think that he could be the Bucks' second leading scorer next year. But anyways, Gross went on to talk about his suitors if he were to leave, and he named the Philadelphia 76ers as one of his top destinations. Of course, it would sting for such a talented shooter to head to a conference rival, but it would make a lot of basketball sense for both Trent and the 76ers because of their desperate need for three-point shooting consistency and efficiency in general outside of both Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain when healthy. So, of course, a robust market for Gary Trent Jr. will likely develop this offseason, and they'll try and pry him away from the Bucks by offering him a bigger annual salary, this and that. It remains to be seen whether he'll want to or have any desire to return to Milwaukee and try things again next to Giannis when he can have a bigger opportunity. Who knows? Maybe he takes one more one-year prove-it deal, and with a full season of being next to Giannis as the second leading scorer, he could prove that he's worth even more heading into next year. He's still young. He's still got a lot of potential. There's no taking that out of the discussion, but maybe he could figure this was the year that he could look for a longer-term deal elsewhere if he were to leave. Anyways, moving on. During a recent appearance on the Road Trippin' podcast, 2008 NBA champion, current ESPN analyst Kendrick Perkins talked about Giannis, about the ongoing trade rumors, though recent updates have shown that he'll likely remain a Buck. Perkins still suggested a trade suitor for Giannis that I personally feel like doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and just as a possible destination, and that's the Detroit Pistons. So Perkins said about them, "If I'm Giannis, I'm seriously considering going to Detroit. Detroit is back on fire, great basketball city, a lot of culture. You have a rising young superstar in Cade Cunningham, Giannis and Cade in Detroit with all this going on. Come on now, we're talking about moving the needle. That puts them right there in the championship conversation. They become the legit title contenders if Giannis Antetokounmpo goes to Detroit." And again, while it would sting, makes perfect sense for both Giannis and Detroit from a basketball perspective. Pairing Giannis with Cade would be wonderful, and if the Pistons were to bring back guys like Malik Beasley in free agency to help out as a go-to shooting threat, just camped in the corners on Giannis drives, the Pistons would be dangerous. And of course, guys like Jaden Ivey, maybe Ron Holland would probably head back to the Bucks in a deal, but a team headlined by Giannis and Cade would be a beast, would be a title contender in a wide-open Eastern Conference with Jason Tatum's injury and the Celtics probably declining a little bit. And at worst, it puts butts in the seats for Detroit, and that could be one of their main goals heading into next year as things are starting to ramp up. They're starting to develop a reputation as a solid and rising young team. But moving on, in a recent article from Fansided's William Moxon, he made it clear that the Bucks can't fall into what he called the Don Wright Trap, where the team brought in a recognizable name as a supporting piece, and it led to disastrous results. Wright had been relied upon as a good backup guard in the league for a while, but he couldn't produce at a consistent rate in Milwaukee. Of course, he went on to go to the Knicks, partially led them to an Eastern Conference Finals berth, 2 games away from an NBA Finals berth. But Moxon added on to this point by saying that players that have been thrown out as options to join the Bucks are Hall of Famers Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook. I've been kind of high on Chris Paul going to the Bucks. I thought it would be fun next to Giannis, but haven't really said the same about Westbrook. Anyways, Milwaukee needs a player who can contribute offensively and bring a spark at the point guard position. Sadly, these two have seen better days, and there are plenty of other options that can offer what the Milwaukee Bucks need. And in my opinion, while they might be recognizable names, Dennis Schroeder and Malcolm Brogdon have to be some of the top candidates to join the Bucks, either taking on starting point guard responsibilities or as their backup. And both guys can contribute on both ends of the floor when engaged. Both are just consummate professionals that have been around the block. Schroeder just this past season, after he made his way to the Pistons, he put together a fantastic postseason run. He was competitive on the defensive end against Jalen Brunson. You can't really stop a guy like Jalen Brunson fully, but he did his best, and he was extremely efficient on the offensive end for that 6-game series against the New York Knicks. As for Brogdon, he's a former Rookie of the Year with the Bucks, could have a little reunion, former 6th Man of the Year for the Celtics, and if anything, he's a reliable scorer and playmaker that can certainly run things with Lillard shelved for most of, if not all, of 2025-26. And believe me, I understand Moxon's point with not falling into this trap, but both of these guys have continuously proved that they are players that can contribute in the right situation. And last but not least, Bobby Portis shared his thoughts on free agency and the rumors circulating around him and the Golden State Warriors, saying that they can hold interest in the scoring forward, the 2021 NBA champion. And while talking to Michelle Beadle, Chandler Parsons, and Lou Williams on FanDuel TV's Run It Back, Portis, he begged the question of how NBA insiders get all of their information and where these things come from. So he said, and I quote, "My first thought when it comes to these reports is, how do these people know so much? Like, how do people know these things? Who is telling all of this? Who is behind the scenes? Who is calling and checking in? It's way beyond me. I don't know if there's someone on each team that calls and tells people things. I don't know. Shams Charania and all these guys that kind of report these things that are happening. I don't know if I would want that job. I wouldn't want to stay up all night by my phone and check in with guys at 3 a.m. That's a tough one to have." Certainly right about that one, but it seems as though Portis is either dumbfounded by these rumors because they are making things up, they're just, spewing baseless claims and information, or because they might be dead on, who knows. And Bobby Portis has mutual interest in joining Golden State this summer. But personally, I think Bobby will remain with the Bucks, and I think he'll end up declining that $13.4 million player option, and he'll begin renegotiations on a longer-term deal with the Bucks front office because he's proven to be an excellent, consistent option as their staple 6th man for the past few years, and especially after the 2021 title run. He's just grown into one of the NBA's best first guy off the bench scorers and players in general. So Bobby Portis is, of course, a valuable commodity heading into this summer and going into the future, and he can still contribute on a competitive team, a good team, especially if Giannis were to come back. So I think that Bobby Portis is going to remain as a Warrior, specifically because he talked recently about Giannis going to a different team and him wearing a different jersey and how weird that would look. So I think Bobby and Giannis are going to stay put in Milwaukee, and they will begin preparations for 2025-26 and what should be a very interesting season. But thank you very much for watching another episode of Bucks Latest presented by fanarch.com. I've been Dean Simon. Again, please consider liking, subscribing, turning on those post notifications to stay up to date and in the know with all the latest Milwaukee Bucks updates. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Bucks!